for raw cards, like for the Jordan I just pulled, taking a photo of it, and then it'll identify the card, tell you how much it's worth, if it's worth grading. And then also you can create a grading submission directly in the app as opposed to having to go to your browser, your web browser, to do it.
Wow.
And so that's coming this quarter.
Welcome back to the PokeRadar Podcast. This is episode 26, the official, I guess, 6 or half year mark, which is pretty awesome. I have a great guest for it as well to celebrate, I guess. People already know who you are, but we'll do a little intro for you. You are the CEO of Collectors Universe, which obviously owns PSA, WADA, part of Golden now, and some other great companies. But we have Nat Turner. How you doing, Nat?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We finally got the opportunity to meet briefly in New York, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Recently, randomly. We were, what was that? That was like a
trade night.
A trade night? Was that hosted by eBay or something?
Yeah.
Did that have anything to do with New York Comic Con? Because that's what I was there for.
That's why, yeah. I mean, I went to Comic Con same day. I think it just, the eBay team and all the guys were in town for that, maybe, and it's a good night to have something, but I don't think it was officially connected.
Gotcha. What are you doing at New York Comic Con? You're a sports guy.
No, but we PSA has a business where we grade Funko Pops.
Right.
Yeah, and so that was primarily why we were there. So
okay, yeah, no, Funko. Well, eBay also owns a decent chunk of Funko.
Oh, really? Yeah.
As well, I believe. So
yeah.
I know that they're. I don't know if there's like a resurgence with them happening, or
I hope so.
I'm sure you guys authenticating and grading might be helping, but
yeah, I don't know. It's not a big thing for us yet. I hope it could be, and it won't just be for Funko long term. We're going to do more and more things like that. Popular collectibles, but yeah, it's not. I doubt we're making a huge difference yet. We want to. Grading and authenticating of Funkos is still in its nascency.
Right.
But, the values of some of them are really high. So it'd be pretty annoying if you bought, a $1,000 Funko on eBay and it was fake. So that's kind of where we're trying to come in and help. But, there's not that many of them that are worth that much. So the grading is still pretty nascent. So
yeah. And most of them are, I guess those higher end ones are just being transacted privately.
Right.
I would assume.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm a big Pokemon guy, big trading card guy. I do enjoy basketball as well. That was what I was doing growing up. While I was hiding the nerd stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to be cool. But you, as far as kind of those recent things you started having interest in, and I wanted to, we don't have a lot of time here, so I'm just kind of diving into to random things, but you're big on these type 1 photographs. That's kind of recently started to pick up some interest. I know Golden is pushing it pretty hard now, with some big auctions coming up. I think did you talk about that a while ago, like a year ago, maybe, or 2 years ago?
Probably.
That was kind of like the next thing that you were interested in.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about like anime cells, like the original anime cells that they do for Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, all that?
I know a little bit. I mean, I've seen more in the comic book, not so much Pokemon, but like the comic book art, like the original artwork. I've actually dabbled in that. But on the TCG side, I've seen a bunch of it. We get asked occasionally to authenticate and slab these like sketches, and we will if they're autographed, signed by the artist. We don't really have a like an artwork or a sketch, like grading service, like to authenticate. Like, yes, this is the original sketch of whatever card or character. But I've seen quite a bit of it. We have some TCG experts at PSA that share it on our Slack channels and stuff. And actually, as a type 1 guy, yeah, to your point, like it resonates a lot because the rarity of the original art or photographs and cards is way higher than the cards themselves typically. And so, like for Mickey Mantle's 1952 Topps card number 311, there's only 3 known Type 1 photographs, that are from that card. Yet there are thousands, tens of thousands of the card itself. So that's what the scarcity of the art / photographs is what interests me.
Well, how do you go about authenticating that then? I'm gonna ask for a little rundown of how you're authenticating Type 1 photographs, because I know nothing about it. I'm interested.
Yeah. So we have first of all, I'm not personally doing it, obviously. That would be bad. But we have a guy, actually I have the book over there. We have the guy who literally wrote the book on typing of photographs, and there's Type 1s, Type 2s, Type 3s. The concept is Type 1s are produced, I think it's within a year or so of the original negative. And so a lot of it is dating of the paper and the actual photograph itself. So it's actually more of a laboratory than, say, card grading is. Like special lighting and paper analysis and different sorts of image analysis to confirm and date and a lot of the provenance matters, but also what's on the back of the photograph. A lot of these photographs were distributed for use by press. And so so they would be mailed, it wasn't digital. So if you were a local newspaper, you'd call up the central image service, say, hey, I need a photo of Babe Ruth. And, they'd pull it out of a file cabinet, and then you'd send it to the newspaper, and they would write on the back of the photograph used, on such and such date. And they'd sometimes even take the headline of the newspaper clipping, cut it, and then paste it onto the back of the photograph as a form of like record keeping that photo was used in that. And so all of that stuff matters. And goes into the typing of basically as a Type 1, Type 2, Type 3. Then there's like souvenir photos and reprint photos, but a lot of it's just the actual material analysis of the photograph, like the actual paper that it's printed on. So that's
definitely doable then for the original sketches. Then at some point you just need that guy.
I'm not saying it's impossible. We just don't do it.
Yeah. Right. You just need to find that guy that writes the book about it, that has all the knowledge. And
we like the cool stuff that's near and dear to my heart is the I wouldn't say it's cooler, but it is to me personally, is the original sketches from the Marvel artists for the 1997 Metal Universe basketball and baseball sets, football as well. And it's like those, like they're literally in pencil. And, like Kobe's, like if you picture the card, like the big sphere and everything, like it's the card, but it's a pencil sketch.
Did the Marvel artist have a part in the actual sports cards too?
Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
Well, so Skybox and Marvel, I think, were in the same office, and I've heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true or legend, that Marvel was upstairs, and the sports guys downstairs wanted a futuristic sci-fi set, Metal Universe, and they walked upstairs and they basically said, hey, here are the subjects, here are the 120 ball players that we want in the hoopers that we want in the set, and the Marvel guys basically created with Gene Arena and Earl from Skybox created the background, the backdrops, the sci-fi.
Right.
So that's what I heard.
That's cool. I like that story. Nice little mix right there. Nice little crossover. That's like your main PC stuff, right? Is those Marvel or the medals, right?
Yeah.
How far along are you with completing that collection?
I'm fully done with the red. I've been done with the red set for probably almost 10 years. Maybe not that long, but 7-8 years. And then the green set, I'm actually now down to 3. So there's 122 of them, I think. I have the biggest one that I have yet to find is John Stockton, which it does exist. It's just hard to get. Are
they just like super low pop?
Oh, so yeah. Well, so there's 90 reds in existence, and there's 10. Okay. So there's only 10 greens, 10 of each green, and the problem is most of them have never surfaced. They're either in boxes, or were thrown away, or they were in kids' trunks, full of their childhood cards, and so. In fact, with the one Robert Pack is one of the 3. I have never seen one, and none of the grading companies have ever graded one.
Interesting.
And no one that I know in the hobby has ever seen one. So like there were two that had that same situation, Del Curry and Brian Grant. And funny enough, both surfaced in Japan in the last year. So like for 15 years that I've been doing this set, I'd never seen a single one. And then in like the span of like 6 months, someone in Japan, two different people, had one of each. And like, so I'm hopeful that Brian Grant, or Robert Pack, shows up.
he'll be in Japan as well.
I mean, probably. And then the Garnet I found was in Shanghai. So like the last three that I've acquired have been in Asia. So whatever.
What do you think the 1-of-1 Curry is?
Oh, the 09 Top Scrum. I have the boxes right over here. Maybe. Yeah, maybe
in there. I mean, he wasn't much back then, right? So easily could have been pulled and thrown away, or just like you said, thrown into a binder. Is that something that you would chase? Are you a big sealed guy? Are you going to hold onto that stuff sealed for a long time, or are you going to just open it before?
I don't know if you can see, like.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like that's just I've got boxes. It's like a card shop in here. But I like keeping the boxes sealed. I open maybe one box a week now. I've slowed down a little bit because I have too many of the cards. Like the base. I guess hard storing all the cards. So I open maybe one a week, but I keep most things sealed. I mean that kind of stuff, like the Curry box. Like I'm not. Those things are like $15,000 or more now. Like it's crazy. So yeah, I'm not opening those on the reg. So.
No, that's one that I do want to chase at some point. I'm a Vince Carter guy, so I chase the. I've got one of the chrome refractors. A PSA 9, but I wanted to open a box and try to pull one, or the Dirk. The Dirk's
I'm literally opening. I just got it in from eBay. I'm going to open this and like right after we get off the podcast.
Awesome. Well, let me know what you pull. I pulled absolutely nothing in my box.
The funny one for me is out of 97. I've opened 20. My dream is to like pull a Tim Duncan. One of my dreams is to pull a Tim Duncan refractor. I've never pulled one, and I've pulled now 3 Tracy McGrady refractor rookies out of 97. And then out of 98, I pulled my guy, which was, I loved Vince Carter too, but I loved Jason Williams back then. I pulled that. So that was cool.
Yeah, White Chocolate, Dirk, Paul Pierce. Yeah. Who else was in that set?
I mean, that was
Chauncey.
Chauncey was.
He was here before.
96, wasn't he?
Was he? Oh yeah, that was with Kobe.
No, was he in 97?
Anyway, I'm from Detroit, so the Piston guys are.
Yeah.
That 04 team was my team growing up, I guess, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a great team.
So talking about PSA a little bit, you mentioned Shanghai, the Chinese market finally getting involved, especially in the trading card industry. I don't know how well aware you are of that. I know they've had a big impact on sports.
Yep.
How are you tackling that? What are you looking at as far as the Chinese market getting more involved in the collectibles market? Out of yourself and for PSA, I guess. I don't know are you allowed to speak on behalf of PSA, or is this all your opinions?
Oh, I know. I can do that
as the CEO. Yeah.
I better be able to, unless you know something I don't. The China market's very important for cards, sports cards more so, at PSA at least. It's become a pretty sizable percentage of our business actually at PSA. So when we look, I mean, it's material like we get, but it's mainly, we don't have grading in China yet locally. It's people sending to the United States, usually through dealers. We have quite a few dealers in China now that are official PSA dealers that, have accounts with us and, send thousands of cards a month. And that's mainly what we're seeing. Our plan, though, is to have grading locally in Shanghai. We have an office with like 100 people in Shanghai, but it's for coin grading and banknote grading. And in fact, our team is actually there this week. Some of our PSA team. And so we are creating roles for PSA in that office, actually in the next few weeks, that are going to be more like concierge, handling customer service, where they'll take in cards at our office, which is what we were doing in Tokyo for multiple years. And then this year we launched local grading in Tokyo. that's our plan in Shanghai. Start with PSA employees that can educate and really help handhold customers locally who don't necessarily trust shipping themselves, and handling customs and everything to the US. We'll do that for you, batch it up into one big box and send it in. And then when we gain enough confidence in our systems and people, turn on local grading in Shanghai. And part of that is finding the right grading talent that's probably in the United States to move there, or to find folks in the local China market to move to the US and train, which is what we did in Tokyo. We actually had Japanese citizens that we hired as graders, but they came and lived in the United States for almost a year, learning and training under grading in the PSA office in California. And then they moved back and started. And actually some people from our California office moved to Tokyo as well. Actually more than a few people. So that's the plan. It takes time though, because the last thing we want to do is launch a grading team in China, and then they have a different, not to their fault per se, but just like a different standard, a different set of tools, different approach to authentication. That's not our, we want every office to, if the same card is sent to Jersey City, to California, to Tokyo, to Shanghai, it needs to get the exact same opinion and grade. And we have software now that does a lot of this kind of double checking, like counterfeit detection, which is actually something that we launched in the last couple of weeks, where we actually use machine learning and AI to compare known counterfeits to cards that are submitted. And the system, without a human even having to be involved, will say this card is fake. So that's the kind of stuff that we want to be very confident in before we kind of, broadly open up more grading offices. But yeah, China's probably next on the list. Tokyo was the one we just did. We'll be in Canada. We want to be in Europe soon. We want to be in Australia. We want to be in South Korea. We have like a roadmap of international markets. Cause again, people don't want to ship their precious. I wouldn't, I get it. Like it's tough. So.
Yeah, it's super expensive. I don't know what do they pay for those import fees and VAT taxes and everything. It's got to be terrible.
No, you cannot replace local grading with any sort of like shipping service. I mean, it's expensive. It's risky. It takes way longer. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why that's not ideal. And so, but again, China, I mean, I don't know the exact percentages, but I mean, it's a material percentage of PSA already, which shows us that, if we had local grading in China, people would take advantage of that service. So yeah.
Yeah. And Pokemon finally started printing in China, creating Chinese sets, which is the first. I mean, they did for the base set back in 1999. I don't think it was mainland China though. So as far as TCGs are concerned, China getting involved, it's gonna be gonna be game changing for the entire industry. Thankfully I think that the TCG has enough separation from sports. I look at what Fanatics is doing, which is in my mind, and I'm not as close to it, but a very high risk, high reward scenario of how they're taking over and doing a lot of taking over almost everything. It's interesting. I mean, you've been around a little bit longer than I have, but as far as the kind of like direct to consumer that Fanatics is looking at, what do you think about that? I mean, I feel like in the past that these companies have tried to eliminate the middleman, the distributor. Are you worried about that at all? I mean, going through the whole 80s, 90s bust and boom and bust.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of similarities that you're seeing that you're a little bit weary about?
Yeah, cutting out the middleman, I think, is unrelated to production quantities. And I mean, maybe you could argue it's potentially related, but I think of those as separate things. And Fanatics' strategy on, let me just say this. I hope, and I've seen nothing to suggest that they're thinking differently, which is a good thing. I think we should remember and cherish local card shops and the kind of existing channels that collectors enjoy. I think we were talking about this offline, like the live Breaking, in my opinion, has gone too far towards gambling and speculation, and I don't know. I mean, you could argue it's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, I think, in my opinion, the breaking experience has gotten to the point of like, I don't get anything, value wise. And the boxes seem very diluted. The pulls seem very diluted, the chase cards. And they've, not just Fanatics, but I think every manufacturer has stuffed the channel with veteran cards. And, I saw some stats on like some of the parallels have just basically exponentially gotten harder to pull, yet the box prices have continued to go up. But I get it. I mean, it's a supply demand market. There's more people collecting. If the prices were lower, you'd probably see, lines out the door at these card shops and Walmart, and that would not be an equilibrium price. So like, I don't run any of those businesses, Topps, Panini, or Upper Deck, whatever. But, I think they have some very challenging decisions to make regarding production quantities and pricing, because again, the sentiment I'm hearing is production is really high and pricing is also really high, and I think you're seeing it happen. And breaking again has become very speculative. And so what's happened, you go to Card Ladder or whatever your choice of analytics, and like secondary value of ultra modern cards produced in the last 3 years has fallen off an absolute cliff, and that's not baseball or basketball or football, or it's all of it, every single sport. And I think TCG, you've seen a little bit of this too, although less. Pokemon Company has, I think, they benefit in that there's true utility in these cards in the gameplay. Sports cards, you don't really have that. They're tracked to the athlete's performance, and you see this again, speculation of people paying $100,000 for a Mac Jones 1/1 card, and now the guy's going to be selling insurance in Kansas probably in the next 6 months, right? And so like you just can't. It's gone too far on the sports side with pricing, and the secondary value is caught up to it. It's actually round tripped. Some of these cards are worth the same they were pre-COVID now. So with like the Luka Prism, like as an example. So, we graded 20,000 PSA 10s of Luka's Prism, rookie.
That's crazy. I remember looking at Zion. Just his base rookie.
Yeah, I think that's the thinking. It was like 19,000 copies. Yeah.
The market cap for a Zion rookie was higher than a Kobe rookie.
Right.
And it made no sense to me.
Makes no sense. Yeah. But I mean, in many ways, we've corrected. Like the hobby, like nature is healing, right? Like we've figured out that we were wrong collectively. And by the way, I was part of it. Like I wasn't buying Zion, but I was buying Luka, cards at the peak and whatever. And we all lost our collective minds, and we've corrected it with secondary pricing. And the question now is, do the manufacturers correct, with pricing and production levels? And that answer is TBD. So
yeah. Are you opening some packs?
Oh, sorry. I'm opening the.
No, that's awesome.
I couldn't wait. Sorry.
No, when you're itching to open, you got to open. It's perfect for this stuff. This is the type. See, this is the thing that I want to do with the podcast eventually, is have it in person, invite people out, and like just do this stuff while we're talking, right? Just opening up packs and enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
no greening, by the way, if you're familiar with the set.
Oh,
I've opened some of these where it's just like straight Hulk, but these are.
Yeah,
pretty nice.
No, the last box I opened, I pulled Paul Pierce base.
Nice.
I think that was it.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of luck out of this box.
I mean, it's 4 cards a pack.
Yeah.
And what you get 2 refractors per box, and the inserts, they're not even that special.
No,
I don't think of that set.
What, top 40? Or no, it's top 40 from the year before. Forget. Coast to coast, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, coast to coast. They got like big man.
Impact. Yeah.
Nothing too crazy in that set. You gotta. That's a big loss usually when you open that one.
The boxes are cheap. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. I'm really interested as well in your I guess your financial life. You're quite the investor now. You've got 100 plus startups that you invest in.
Yeah.
You were very successful starting, what was it, medical companies?
Cancer software company.
Cancer software. Now, when you, obviously as collectors, we kind of think, okay, what's the first thing we would do when we hit the lottery? How much of this would we buy? What was the first thing you bought when you first exited your the first company? And this is all public. It was what, like 100 mil, a couple 100 mil. What was the first thing that you bought for your collection or to rip?
That was in 2010. I was 24 years old. I didn't own all that company, by the way, small piece of it. But I was, so in 03 when LeBron came out, I was a senior in high school, and I started buying his rookie cards. And my goal at the time was to have a BGS 9.5 of every card of his. At the time, not parallels, just the base rookies, which according to the Beckett magazine was like 56 of them. I had an Excel sheet, the whole thing. And then I wanted a raw copy as well. That was my goal. And so that was senior year of high school. I bought most of them on eBay. The most expensive one I bought was the Topps Chrome Gold, which was like $3,500, gold refractor, BGS 9.5. I didn't have a raw copy ever, actually, because most of them were graded. But the one on the list that I couldn't afford until 2010 was the Exquisite, obviously. And so I had like the Ultimate out of 250. I had the SP out of 500. I had the Finest Gold I bought for $500, maybe. No, more than that, because that was a 9.5. But anyway, point is, the Exquisite was out of reach. And so the first card I bought in 2010, I mean, maybe hours after the money hit the account, was I bought a BGS 9.5 out of 99, RPA LeBron Exquisite, and then a year later bought a BGS. I've never owned a BGS 9.5 parallel out of 23, but I bought a BGS 8 from a good friend of mine, Bob Morris, who's one of the biggest LeBron collectors. He and I were competing for the last 20 years on BGS 9.5s, but I've since switched to PSA, and he's staying true to BGS. So we no longer compete. In fact, I never thought the day would come that I've sold some of mine that weren't going to cross to him, the BGS 9.5s. But anyway, so
no Darko.
I have one Darko. Well, I have the Ultimate Logo Man parallel, which I love, the Darko.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it was on Golden. I bought it. It actually went cheaper than I thought. It was like $8,500. I mean, Darko's got some like cult following.
Yeah.
But like the first Logo Man, well, not first technically, the year before, but it's a freaking awesome card. That's the other LeBron of that is the one that I would rather see other than the Curry.
Has that one ever popped up?
I've only seen a photo of it. I don't know. I've heard it's in China, but
okay.
The Carmelo horizontal, the insert one popped up on Card Hobby it sold 2 nights ago in the China Card Hobby.
What did that go for?
$50,000. So all the 03, like so much of 03 was opened in China.
Yeah.
Like one of my dual Logo Mans from Exquisite was in China that I bought. I mean, they had a lot of stuff out there.
Well, it's never leaving either.
It's starting to like the Card Hobby. Well, I don't know if it's material, but
it's because China's picked up a lot of the high end Pokemon stuff.
Oh, you're saying that? Yeah.
It's the last 2 years.
Yeah,
I've sold quite a bit of my high end stuff to China, and I don't know if it's ever going to leave. So
that's the problem. You're saying the stuff that's recently purchased. Got an Alonzo refractor. Awesome. Ooh,
all right, not bad.
Yeah.
That set is also terrible for centering.
Yeah, totally.
Always right to left.
Totally.
So before all that, were you dealing cards? Were you through high school, through middle school? That was that always your side gig, your side hobby?
I was an entrepreneur for sure at a young age, and my primary business was not trading cards. I was a web designer, web developer, and I also had a snake breeding business of all things. But I had a
what? Wait, a snake?
Yeah, reptiles. I'm really into snakes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I go look for them like all the time. But starting in maybe 7th grade, I was in Houston. We moved back to Houston in 5th grade. Starting in 7th grade, I would be a dealer. Like I would have a booth at the local card shows, like usually like the hotel ballroom ones, not like the big.
Right.
We had some big shows down in downtown, like the George R. Brown Center and stuff, which I think there's still a TriStar show there. But I would, I'd probably display at, I don't know, 5 or 6 shows a year. My dad and I made like a nice box, with the plexiglass top, and I was mainly doing, it was basic stuff. I was buying, Rockets players on eBay for cheap and selling them locally, and doing off season, on season arbitrage and stuff like that. So
I never got into the buying and selling at that age. I was just collecting. My dad was the influence, and I had 2 older brothers. Yeah. So my dad's a big coin collector.
Oh, mine too.
That's kind of, I guess, where I got the collecting gene, right?
Yeah.
And he got us into basketball cards, of course.
Yeah.
And baseball. I don't even want to know. He doesn't even want to know the baseball cards that he had as a kid. My grandpa had a liquor store in Detroit, and sold the cards there. That was probably, is that the 50s and 60s? It had to have been.
Yeah.
So who knows what my dad and his brothers had in their collections before it got lost and thrown away. Typical story. Because he was obsessed with that stuff. I mean, you talk about how sports cards don't really have a utility. Him and his brother, his closest brother, would they memorized all the stats. They'd create their own game they'd play. So it's interesting that these major sport leagues haven't found a utility in a trading card game. Wizards of the Coast actually made
the soccer ones. Yeah.
They did MLB Showdown for 5 years, NBA Showdown for 1 year, and NFL Showdown for 2 years.
Their soccer cards though are pretty. The trading card games, the soccer ones, are pretty popular. When did
they do that? Is that new?
It was mainly in Spanish. I think they were distributed in Spain. I think there's a French version too. But we see, because like Ronaldo's, there's some pretty famous soccer player, football players that are, their rookie cards are technically Wizard of the Coast cards. And we
didn't know that.
Yeah, we see quite a few of them. It's cool. Like, you see the game, they're like, they have power based on like their speed, or like, how good are they at penalty kicks, and like, whatever. It's pretty cool. So
yeah, it's a dice game with the cards, right. And I think with MLB there's the Pujols rookie, there's the Ichiro rookie. There's some good cards in there as well. I mean, though that game I played religiously with my brothers, and we kept stats for a season. It was way too much fun.
Really, to your point, it never really caught on. So
yeah, I think that there could be a resurgence there. That's something that needs to happen, because they're up on higher on my shelf.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, it's a little blurry, but yeah.
But yeah, they're up there. I've got a lot of that
cards,
stuff.
like what your dad would have had or whatever. I mean, a lot of those cards have crossed over into artwork, and so there is utility in theory with the displayability, or the I don't know what the right word is, but like the Gaudi set is on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City right now, or was in October. Oh. Like, that's pretty cool. You know? So like, I'm not, like the 2019 Prism basketball set certainly isn't, and won't be for 50 years, but the old stuff is certainly considered artwork, I think now, which is adding to its value and sustainability of value. So. Yeah,
that's interesting you bring that up. I talk about that a lot with my friends in Pokemon, how we want to we want to start a Pokemon museum at some point, or a TCG museum. Is that ever crossed your mind? I mean, that's something that
Well, I'll give you this theory we have, which is this concept of 25 years, which is after 25 years, things become considered vintage. Like if you buy a car, it's going to lose value every year until a certain point. Usually 25 years later, it starts to appreciate because people are like, it's vintage. And a lot of it's tied to the nostalgic value of like, once you're collecting something as a kid, it takes 20, 25 years for people to have disposable income where they can start buying the things that reconnect into their childhood. And so look at what year did Pokemon come out?
96 in Japan, 99 in the US. Yeah.
Right. And so
25.
Yeah. Look at Magic. When did the Black Lotus and all those start coming out? Go really high in value.
Yeah, that 93. So 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, you can look at Yu-Gi-Oh. You can look at all the other, types of TCG2, and like, I don't know, like look at 90s basketball cards. Like people are submitting like 98 metal base cards all of a sudden. Like 5 years ago, you're like, what the hell are you doing? Like those cards are, but like I'm gonna be submitting some of these base cards, 98 Topps Chrome. So anyway, that's just the theory. But I think in TCG land and sports card land, like that theory actually does hold true. And like, in other words, like TCG is right for a museum. I think 90s cards deserve a museum at some point, basketball cards especially. We're doing that for 60s and 50s baseball and 30s baseball now. Why not, Pokemon? So, yeah.
Well, they're taking part in already existing museum, right? Would you ever want to open up your own? Would you put together a board of collectors and?
Yeah, I mean, I would do it. I mean, we're looking at writing some books at PSA, like not for profit purposes, more so for just like a coffee table book to cherish and appreciate the beauty of I call the 90s like the golden era of sports cards. I mean, you could argue the 50s with the Topps, but then really, I mean, it was kind of meh for like all of the 70s and 80s. And like then we had some really bad problems until the 90s, where they invented serial numbering and autographs and jersey patches and parallels and refractors, and like some true innovation happened, right? And so that to me is like kind of like the golden era. It's a revolution for cards, and so we're thinking about that. There we go, Vince Carter.
Nice.
But yeah, I think off-centered, of course. But I think we could do that. I mean, I've created one here in my home office, for my own enjoyment. But it'd be cool to do one publicly. Sure. I don't know if it'd get enough. There's not enough people like us.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
I think there's so many. I mean, I honestly think it would be so easy to fund a museum.
Maybe a pop-up or something like for a month.
Well, sure, but I really do think there's enough of us that have a good amount of money that can help.
Would you go to?
Well, for TCG, it would have to be Seattle or Bellevue. It's the birthplace of WotC and all that, right?
Yeah.
For sports, I feel like the East Coast makes sense, but maybe the Midwest. I am biased there.
Chicago,
yeah. I think Chicago is a pretty big staple for sports cards.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
We don't really own all of our cards, right? PSA owns no cards, and so that's
right. But PSA would be, I think, an interested party, and
we could help curate it, and make sure everything's real, and
yeah. So I think there's enough industry, enough individuals that I think you could support a pretty decent museum for a long time.
For sure.
I mean, obviously, with the ups and downs of collectibles, people might pull out at some point.
Oh my god! Look what I just pulled.
No way.
It is so off-centered, but like, check that out.
That's the biggest card of the set.
Totally.
Wow. Congrats. That's massive.
Dude, how cool is that? That's awesome.
That's really awesome. That's great. That was actually one of the first sports cards that I made a play on as I was making money off Pokemon and decided to dabble in sports.
Yeah. I mean, these were like 20-25 grand at one point for a 10.
Well, I think there's only single digits PSA 10s.
This thing's off center. It's got a dinged bottom right corner, but it's freaking cool.
But hey, you pulled it. Now that's
I can check that off my list.
That's awesome.
I would have rather it have been Vince, because that's a guy like you, but
but Dirk's the money maker of the set. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's paid for the box probably.
Yeah, I think an 8 is still a few grand.
Yeah, this wouldn't be an 8. This thing's got
it's got the ding.
It's got a very white back corner, and then the back centering is 50-50 all around. The front's like 80-20 left to right.
Yikes. Get the OC grade.
Yeah, it'll be I think it's a 6, but yeah, I mean, it's probably, I mean, I paid $650 for the box, so it's probably good there.
Yeah. Not bad. Wow.
There you go. Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to end up buying a box today and trying to pull
you
it.
need to. Yeah.
So as far as innovation, I mean, a lot of people talk to you about AI, obviously. I actually in my past life, I come from the world of automation. So I was selling robotic arms and doing all the computer, the machine vision, the machine learning, computer vision stuff. But I'm really interested in your app, the PSA app. I mean, you're a tech guy, right? So what's going on there? I think there's so much opportunity with that app that is just being underutilized. Do you have any? I think that this kind of goes against our the hate of casinos and oh wow, what a box, and gamifying. But I think you can gamify the PSA app a little bit and make it more interactive and engaging for collectors. I think that would take in some involvement with the actual publishers, but there's some gamifying. I think that can make the app even more fun. I mean, obviously the recent edition of revealing your grades is fun.
Dude, next pack, Jordan again.
Unbelievable.
Hot box. Yeah. So the app is it's a huge opportunity for us and for the hobby. I mean, we have a lot of downloads of it.
How many? Do you know?
I want to say, well, more importantly is active users. We have like 34,000 people using it every day, I think was the number. But it's a lot more when you look at like monthly and so it's like over 100,000 a month, I think. But like, the usage is very intense. It's like checking your orders, doing grade reveals. We don't have a lot of like subtle users or like, it's people that are checking status of their orders is the biggest thing. So what's coming though is we have a set registry app that's separate. We're going to merge those two. So the set registry will be in the app. And then we're also launching a lot of tools for collection management. So right now the PSA Vault is integrated into the app. So you can have your collection in your app, which is super cool. And you can have cards that are in the vault or not in the vault in that My Collection tab. Which again, we're going to launch the registry components too, but we're going to have a lot more card scanning features where you can already do this with already graded cards. Like what's this card, last sales, estimated value, what sets is it eligible for, blah, blah, blah. But for raw cards, like for the Jordan I just pulled, taking a photo of it, and then it'll identify the card, tell you how much it's worth, if it's worth grading. And then also you can create a grading submission directly in the app as opposed to having to go to your web browser to do it.
Wow.
And so that's coming this quarter. So yeah, that's cool. But yeah, any ideas you have? I mean, we're just trying to get the basics. Like we get a lot of shit, rightfully so. Like, why can't you submit in the app? Like, yeah, it's a good point. The reason is we have only so many engineers and we have so many things to do, but it's absolutely like we need to get that done first is my point before we go on to like some of this other crazy stuff.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, I mean, that's a very difficult thing to do. I don't know how well that'll, I've seen people on the side build it themselves, but obviously it doesn't work perfect.
Well,
so
none of this is, to be clear, like none of this is rocket science. Like, in my career, we've had a lot more challenging things to build.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about it. It's just hey, we got 150 software engineers and 200 things we're doing at the same time. Like we're doing AI grading and like not pure grading, but like counterfeit detection. Like stuff that's really hard, but arguably more important. Like, who cares if you can submit a card in the app unless you make sure the card gets graded correctly every single time across every office around the world? Like that's what we care more about, grading consistency and accuracy right now than we do, cool things in the app. And so that's why, our resources are going there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it also makes a lot of the economy of it really easy, right? The resellers. I mean, that's something that we did at Whatnot, that we're doing at TikTok that I was doing at Rare Candy was integrating with all the grading companies to make it super easy to list. Just scan the barcode, scan the QR code, whatever, and it gives you all the info.
We take high-res photos now, front and back of every card, both before and after grading. That's primary reason is for verification, but the secondary, we didn't really anticipate this, but people are using those images for their eBay listings, or whatnot, whatever, and that's fine. That's great. So
I think that's a big help. It's with how quickly that the industry's growing and people are impatient, it helps. It helps a lot.
We got some really cool stuff coming down the pipe though in that world, which
good
we didn't talk about yet.
Good. So you're opening up. You got New Jersey, you got LA, you've got Tokyo. China's next. Any opportunities for the Midwest, for the South? I mean, obviously Texas is a hot spot for cards. I think that Chicago, even Detroit area is a pretty good hot spot for cards.
So the U.S. for us, like, there's no problem someone shipping from Dallas to California as that would be from Shanghai to California, right? That's two very different things. Mm-hmm. So the only reason two reasons we'd be locally in the U.S. more than our current two offices. The primary reason would be talent. Like, we do struggle hiring more graders in California, which is why we started Jersey. That was the only reason. It wasn't because we had a bunch of collectors over there who didn't want to ship. And that is the second reason, which is that there are a lot of collectors who don't like to ship, but that's highly secondary. Because shipping inside the continental U.S. is no big deal. Mm-hmm. No, again, I'd rather drop off. Trust me. But for us, it's talent, and a distant second would be the other. Like, we're not going to spend all that money just to avoid some shipping. Because it just wouldn't change the like, most people just end up shipping, or they go to dealers who are much better at it and package them up in bigger boxes and more insurance, and it's much more reliable, which again, we don't want to compete with our dealers more than necessary. Because if we opened in some Midwest town, there's going to be some local card shop that's a PSA dealer that won't so much like that. So we try and balance those things. So for us, it's about talent again, and we're it's pretty. Jersey's growing really fast. Like, we're over 20 graders in Jersey City now.
Good.
But so there's not a pressing reason to open another U.S. office at the moment. So,
okay. Yeah. So with all these additions and innovations and everything, are you? In adding in all the AI technology, I mean, at some point you would think that the grading standard would have a solidified change. Throwing in the computers, taking away some of that eye appeal grading. Is that something you're preparing for, or do you think you're going to stay as consistent as possible throughout the rest of time?
Our goal is actually the latter. The goal of our software is to not replace the human grading component at all. It's to co-pilot and assist them in remaining as consistent and accurate as possible. We do make plenty of mistakes. We grade inauthentic cards on a daily basis, not intentionally, but we get 55,000 cards a day. Something's going to happen. Probably more than once per day. And our goal, it's just not acceptable when our job is to get it right. And it's one of our core values as a company, to be okay with that. Even if it's on one hand, if it happens once, that's one too many. Mm-hmm. My team hates me for that, but it's like, look, if I buy a 98 star Rubies card on eBay and a PSA holder, and it turns out to be fake, yes, PSA buys it back. That's great. But that's a really shitty experience for that customer, that collector, and they have to go through that hassle, and it degrades the trust in the PSA brand. So we're going to keep buying back, and we've amped up buying back bad cards, a lot of Pokemon that we should not have graded. But more importantly is we need to have the right software in place. So on a go forward basis, those examples become, effectively zero. And that's on the authentication, binary yes or no. On the grading numerically, well, most of what we're trying to do is just ensure consistency largely across offices, but really over time, like a pack pulled 2003 Topps card should get the same grade today as it did 5 years ago as it does 5 years from now. And, we don't want there to be, and people trust PSA for our current grading standard. Why should we try and change it? We need to protect it. And as the team scales, because we do need to hire more people, you need to make sure it maintains and you're protecting it. So that's the primary goal, is as you scale and open new offices, make sure it stays the same, which is not easy. Protecting something as something grows is honestly just as hard as invention, from scratch. And so, that's so, but the counterfeit stuff is really cool. Like we back tested, this is the first time I'm talking about it, but we back tested our counterfeit detection against prior graded cards. Cause we have our secure scan images of graded cards front and back. And we found 250 cards that we, at the time should not have graded, but we at the time we didn't realize it was fake, or we made a mistake. And, it wasn't a known fake at the time. So, and so what are we doing? We're deactivating all of them, in the PSA database. And if they're ever resold or someone tries to look up their cert, they see it's deactivated, it says contact PSA, we're going to buy it back. And like that, and that's really cool.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, the
expensive, by the way, but
yeah, I mean, I guess that's where the insurance comes into play that I can,
we don't have
time. Or the, I guess the grading costs, the $10,000 fee.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I mean, we one-time insurance premium we collect when you grade a card,
Yeah.
In other words, it's money we're prepared to spend. So.
Right. So, well, we're coming up on time here. I want to end off with just kind of a lighthearted thing and hear from you what your what's your favorite thing about the hobby? I mean, owning, it's weird, right? You never would think you're going to do a hobby and end up essentially owning a piece of it, right? But what's your favorite part of it now in the state that you're in? I mean, do you have kids? Your family? Yeah. So your kids are getting involved. Probably. How are they?
They're 8 and 5. I mean, they
prime age getting started. Yeah. So what's your favorite part about all that? I mean, probably being a dad, I'd assume, but.
Oh, I love it. My kids are not as into it as I would like them to be, but I've overexposed them. I mean, they know more than they let on, but I think they're not like some of their friends are way more into it than they are. They beg me to take them to the office and stuff.
Career day is probably awesome.
Yeah. Career day, that'd be, we don't have that in our school yet, but that'd be fun. But, no, for me, it's the true collectors. I mean, they're not just kids. I mean, the kids are by far the most fun to be around. Like, when we have them by the office or at the National, like I would way prefer to, talk to a 13-year-old about his baseball cards than, a speculator of Mac Jones Prism with why his card didn't get a 10. But it's the true collectors who are in it for set collecting. That's my, or player collecting, like the folks that like literally get the same enjoyment out of that dirt card versus a $1 million card or $5 in other words, the value is irrelevant, and it's about the card, the beauty of the card, the nostalgic of it, whatever it is. That's the part that I love. So awesome. The good news is there's plenty of those people still around. So.
Yes, there are, and many more to come. So
that's right.
Thank you, Nat. I appreciate your time today. Congrats on the Dirk pull.
Yeah. You got that on air. That's cool.
Yeah. I'll get a clip of it and send it over to you. But I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'm sure I'll run into you again soon at one of these events. And
for sure.
And if you ever had any questions on Pokemon, let me know. I can help you out.
I'll find some. I'll hit you up.
Yeah.
Maybe find Magic cards though, because I remembered that more as a kid. Pokemon wasn't out when I was a middle schooler. So
okay. All right. Well, we'll have to get you some MLB Showdown too, or NBA Showdown maybe.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care.
See you, buddy. Bye.